I followed my dreams and opened an antique store to have adventures and spend time as a family. Sometimes you have to climb a mountain and open some new doors to find the treasures inside. This is our life, this is our adventure, and this is Curiosity Inc. Hi again, everybody. So, as you may know, I sometimes like to play around with old cars, sometimes newer cars like the Chevy HHR we had, but it's always on a budget. These are vehicles that I use for work. They go up and down the highway, they get rock chips, and so I don't want to put a crazy expensive paint job on them. I just need something that looks cool and is going to get me around. So today I'm going to go pick up our next project vehicle, 1983 Volkswagen Vanagon, and we're going to see if we can't transform it into something a little more interesting, and we're going to try and do it for under $1,000. So that's the goal. Get the van, convert it, paint it for under $1,000, and hopefully it's going to look all right. So not expecting miracles, and hopefully at home, if you're watching, you're not expecting miracles for this price range either, but we are expecting it to look cool and to put smiles on people's faces. So we're going to go get the van, check it out, and hopefully strike a deal and see what we can do. So this might be what you're thinking of when you think Volkswagen van, but this isn't the type we're getting, and although I love the looks of the early style, they are awfully expensive for a daily driver, and albeit a wonderful vehicle, in Canada in -40 weather, probably not the most practical to use. So we've decided to look around for something a little bit newer and have landed on the water-cooled, boxer-engined Volkswagen Vanagon. So here it is. Have to get our license plate put on there, but I've got big plans for this van, and it's super roomy inside too. So these aren't quite as collectible yet as the Westphalias or the older vans that you see from the 60s or 50s, but it's still pretty cool, and I think it'll be a great hauler for us for the shop. With custom upholstery. Ta-da! Duct tape. Okay, so the inaugural test run in the van, and just leaving the property now, and so far so good. We're gonna head on the highway and see how she does at higher speed. It is a 4 on the floor. It is a manual transmission, and yeah, it's a pretty soft ride for you know, for an old Volkswagen van. It actually is driving pretty good. Okay, hop in, guys. Is there enough room in there? So for the inaugural trip for the van, I thought I'd take the kids out for some ice cream. Today I'm going to start the prep on the car. So it's actually in pretty good shape. There's a couple little dents on it that have to be straightened out and a little bit of filler added. Then I'm going to go over it with my sander and 220 grit and wet 400 grit sandpaper over top of that before it goes in for paint. So I'm going to get sanding and get this thing ready for paint. And I've got my color picked out for the van as well. I got a can of pre-mixed paint, which you can go into some specialty shops and they'll actually mix you up the exact color that you want in a spray can. So I'm getting a shop to do the outside in Larkspur Blue, which is better known as probably 1957 Chevy Blue. It's an iconic color and I think it's going to look fantastic on this van. I'm going with a retro sort of theme, keeping it very Volkswagen-y and very fun and kind of 50s-y, even though it's a 1983. It's still got that Volkswagen appeal, and I think this will be a fun touch. So after I get everything all sorted out and sanded down on the van, I'm going to have to look at painting the door jambs and then getting the body sprayed as well. So that'll be next. And there were a couple little creases in the side, and I've gone and filled and sanded those, and it's feeling nice and smooth. So that's just about ready for primer. I've been working away on the little Volkswagen here. I started yesterday on the body work, and I'm just about done. But it's a good thing too, because I heard from the paint shop that they actually want me to drop the car off tomorrow morning so they can get it in the next day or so. So I've got to get really busy here, get this done, and hopefully next week I'll have it all painted and ready to come home. So So I've removed the grill so they can paint in behind it. I've started to fill in some of the little rock chips that are on there. Thankfully this van doesn't have any rust, but it did have a few little door dings which I've straightened out. And I've started to spray the door jambs. Same thing on the back, I've got the emblems removed. I've started to sand it down, and the next step will be giving it a light sanding with probably a 400 or 600 grit sandpaper, just as the final prep before it goes in. But that big dent that was here, I don't know if you recall, there was a big dent there. I've got that all straightened out and just about ready for paint. Of course, the color I'm going is 57 Chevy blue. So I've taped this all off in here, and I've started to do the door jambs because they're going to paint the car with the doors closed because, well, it's an economy paint job. That's what I could afford for it. So I've started to paint all the door jambs blue, and that's the color the whole van's going to be. So with a little bit more work, we'll have it ready for paint, and hopefully it'll look good. Okay, I've put a coat of primer on, and I'm just kind of going over, just making sure that it's still nice and smooth. I've gone over with a lighter grit sandpaper. And if there's any little spots that are a little rougher, we're going to try and get those taken care of before it goes in to the paint shop. But it's starting to look pretty good. Well, it was a fair bit of work. I worked on this van last night, pretty much all night, and then today again all night. But there's now not a single dent, not a single rock chip, anything on this van. It's primed, it's sanded, and it's prepped. It's ready to go into the spray shop where they're going to put a coat of primer on it, seal it, and then paint it. So with luck, this little van here that's looking a little spotty and worse for wear will look pretty darn cool and clean with a new coat of paint come next week. So stay tuned for that coming up next. There she is. Just have to throw my trim on. Well, now the van looks as good as it drives, which is actually pretty good. The 57 Chevy blue looks almost like a factory Volkswagen color on this thing. And yeah, it feels good driving around in a nice clean vehicle without any creases or dents or spray paint all over it. So feeling pretty good today, and it's a beautiful sunny day. Couldn't ask for better. So what did everything come to? Well, here is the general breakdown. We had to do a little bit of sanding to the vehicle, but thankfully I had the sandpaper in the garage already, so that didn't really cost me a dime. As for the paint, well, I did have to buy a can of primer just to do the spots that we did, so that was one can of primer, and that ended up running us about $15. Body filler, we ended up just getting your good old-fashioned Bondo straight off the shelf from most hardware stores. You can get it at Canadian Tire, at Walmart, well, pretty much most places carry Bondo. That cost us about 25 bucks. We did get the color match spray paint. That was special. That did have to get made up specific to the color that we're getting to have the vehicle in. That was $20. The paint job was $750, bringing the grand total to $810 plus taxes. So we did make it under the wire, under our $1,000 mark, and I think the van turned out pretty good. So all in all, pretty happy with how things worked out. Couldn't ask for better, and I'm loving the color. Seems to really suit it. So there you have it, a nice inexpensive paint job for under $1,000. Van looks way better in my opinion, and although it's not a $5,000–6,000 paint job, it does the trick. It looks good, and I'm gonna drive this vehicle very often, so it will probably get door dings and chips, so I don't really care, and I'm gonna have fun with it. So why not have fun with your car too if you're not afraid to spend the money? you know, go out and get a cheap paint job, have some fun, and you'll get something that looks really cool too. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can check us out online at curiosityedmonton.ca. We're on Instagram and Facebook as well. We'll see you guys soon, and bye for now.